The Queen Bee. Once upon a time, in a rolling green land of forests and winding rivers, there lived 3 brothers. The 2 eldest were strong and proud, dressed in bright but carelessly torn cloaks. They laughed loudly, boasted of their cleverness, and spent their father's inheritance on drink and trinkets. The youngest brother was called Simpleton. He wore only a plain linen shirt, a brown vest, and patched boots, but in his heart he carried a kindness that no gold could buy. When the 2 older brothers set off to seek their fortunes, Simpleton stayed behind to care for the animals and the garden. Yet after a year passed, and no word came back, he decided to follow them. He took only a small satchel with bread and walked down the same road under the morning sun. Soon he came to a sandy clearing where thousands of brown ants were swarming over a crust of bread. His 2 brothers stood above them, sticks raised. "Let us crush them," said the eldest. "They're only pests." "No," Simpleton said firmly. "Leave them in peace. They're only taking what they need." He gently moved the bread aside, and the ants scurried away unharmed. The brothers laughed and called him foolish, but Simpleton walked on. By midday they reached a shimmering lake ringed with reeds. White ducks floated on the surface, preening their feathers. The older brothers began throwing stones to see them scatter. "Stop!" cried Simpleton. "The lake is their home." Let them swim in peace. He crouched at the shore, holding out his palms, and the ducks swam closer with soft quacks. The brothers rolled their eyes, but the ducks remembered. Later, on a sunny hillside, they passed an old oak tree heavy with a wild beehive. Golden combs dripped with honey, and bees buzzed in and out. "Let's light a fire and take the honey," said the second brother. "No," Simpleton said again. "The bees are working for their winter." "We mustn't destroy their home." He stepped between his brothers and the hive, and the bees hummed gratefully around his head. At last, the 3 brothers came to an ancient castle overgrown with ivy. Its iron gates stood open, but no guards watched. Inside, the halls were silent, but gleamed with strange light. On a stone throne sat a spectral king, pale as moonlight. His crown was heavy, his eyes sorrowful. "You may break the curse that binds my castle," the king's voice echoed, "but only if you complete 3 tasks. Fail, and you shall remain here as statues like those who came before you." The first task. In the great hall lay 1,000 pearls scattered across the flagstones, each glowing faintly. All had to be gathered before sunset. The older brothers began at once, but soon grew tired and gave up. Simpleton knelt on the floor, not knowing where to begin, when suddenly the sound of tiny legs filled the hall. The ants he had spared marched in through a crack in the wall. In orderly lines they gathered every pearl and piled them neatly at Simpleton's feet. By sunset the hall was empty, and the first task complete. The second task. A golden key lay at the bottom of the lake behind the castle. The older brothers stripped off their boots and waded in, but found only mud. Simpleton stood at the bank, anxious. Then the white ducks he had protected glided out of the reeds. One by one they dove under, their orange beaks flashing. In moments they returned, and the last duck placed the golden key into Simpleton's hands. The second task was done. The third and hardest task. In a secret chamber lay 3 princesses under an enchanted sleep. Only one was the true youngest daughter of the king. Choose wrongly, and the spell would remain forever. The older brothers guessed at random, but the king's ghost shook his head. Simpleton hesitated until a low hum filled the chamber. The queen bee he had spared circled his head, then flew to the third bed and settled on the princess's lips. Simpleton bowed and named her as the youngest. At once the curse broke. The princesses awoke, the king's ghost faded with a smile, and the castle filled with music and sunlight. The grateful king offered Simpleton the youngest princess's hand and the crown. His selfish brothers were given nothing but their shame. Simpleton ruled wisely, never forgetting the small creatures who had helped him. The ants built their hills safely, the ducks nested on the castle lake, and bees swarmed in the royal orchard's blossoms. All prospered because one gentle heart had spared what others would destroy. And so it is told to this day, kindness, even to the smallest, may return in the moment you need it most.